You just keep getting funnier with all that stuff in front of your face. How are you?
Oh, well, I'm not going to drink out of this. I don't know. It's from my daughters from dinner last night. So how are you doing?
I'm great. I am great. I wish we were recording our show outside today. It's so pretty.
It is beautiful. So are you ready to move? Are you ready to be outside in this good weather? You're picking a good time to find a new house.
So I'm going to give everybody a heads up, especially you, Scott. 2 weeks from today, which is a Tuesday, I actually am going to sign on my house 30 minutes after we're done with our show. So I could be a hot mess in 2 weeks. So just prepare yourself, okay? You might have to take over the tech of the show.
Well, this is a very family-friendly audience. A lot of our normal viewers are really, it's the classic, you call them the radio show, big fan, long-time listener. I feel like we're starting to get that going on a year where we have a lot of listeners. And speaking of that, you want people to let us know where they're at.
Yeah, look at you. See, I don't even need to be here in a couple of weeks. Yes, hello, everyone. Let us know if you are watching us on Facebook or LinkedIn. Our Facebook audience is starting to catch up with our LinkedIn audience, which I think is super fun because we just kind of thought we'd test that out. And then we always talk about networking. This is the best place to network. So drop in what you do, who you are, and we will show it up here for our listeners or for the people that are watching this. I'm pretty excited. Tomorrow, I want to talk real quick. Bank of Blue Valley, actually, we talked about this last week. They're doing their succession planning webinar, and it is tomorrow. And I wanted to drop this right here. You can go on and sign up. We have actually posted this on our Drinks with Leaders page. But tomorrow, one more time, at 12 o'clock, succession planning. And I was looking at this. This looks like a really cool event as a business owner to go attend.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize when they're buying into a business, and some of our guests can speak to this point as well. There's other ways to financially do that, and finding a great partner like Bank of Blue Valley that can support you. More importantly, when you're trying to perpetuate your business to the next generation. A lot of people don't realize that 60% of all the major companies are middle market or above in Kansas City are privately held, which typically mean family oriented. So banks play a major role in that. And on top of that, you were a mentor for Mentoring Monday that Bank of Blue Valley sponsored with the Kansas City Business Journal, had over 400 people. So shout out to Sarah Ventola. And then also, as always, to Sean and Felicia, who are our partners at Bank of Blue Valley that enable us with all this material that we're able to share, and they help us plan each show. So very thankful to them, and to Wendy Reynolds, the CEO, who is always out and about in the community and who Aaron has a crush on, because we're always amazed at just how well-rounded and involved she is in everything in the community. And we always forget, we're like, I guess you are that impressive because you are a CEO of a big company. But every time we talk to her, it's just always, it's cool to how down to earth she is, but yet how she touches every part of the business. It's kind of impressive.
I have an embarrassing story about me to Wendy the other day. So on Wendy and I have talked on the phone, like cell phone to cell phone one time, and I didn't save her number because I didn't know if our relationship was there yet, and I didn't want to accidentally, call her. And so the other day I got a picture of our office door down in the River Market, and she said, saw this today when I was at lunch thinking of you, and I didn't have the number saved. So I did the thing I always do, which I'm just going to call myself out.
Who dis?
New phone, so sorry, number didn't transfer over, which is a total lie. And she knew it, and she the bubbles came up right when I was doing it, but I was like, I'm going to hit send. And then she's like, Wendy Reynolds, by the way. And then you could kind of tell she knew I was full of it, but she's like, save my number. I was like, all right, I'm going to save it now. But I have a total crush on her. She is she is such a big deal. I can't say the bad A word that I want to, but she is the real deal when it comes to women-owned, or not women-led business. She is so awesome. So yeah, I pulled that this weekend. Do you do that when you get a number, or do you just say, I don't know who this is?
No, I usually can, well, maybe. But speaking of that, about exactly your point about a CEO that has hundreds of employees and thousands of clients, one of our guests that we're about to check in on has a CEO very similar. And I think there's a unique ability to always make people feel like you're really close and you're heard and you're understood. And I just think that that's an amazing talent in general. And I just can't believe, that people are able to do that they can text you and say, hey, how's it going? But speaking of that, what about the music? Are you thinking you're ready?
Yeah. So let me get the music ready. I'm going to try to do all the things here. We're just going to go with the Bulls walk-up song, because I feel like they're all your buddies, and your buddies always like this. So
we're going first name basis like Madonna here. And, we're going to go with our potential visual audio person last, but another audience is starting to chime in. So you let me know when you're ready, because our number one guest just made a comment.
No one supports us more than this woman right here, Miss Jennifer Dehan. Hi, Jennifer. Happy Tuesday. Celebrate another week of sunshine and opportunity. Jennifer, thank you so much for joining in. We are going to introduce our panel now, but start telling us who you are in the comments so they know you're watching. All right, I'm ready. Are you?
Let's go. Number one, coming to you, soon to be running for school office, Chris. Number two, owns a lot of businesses but can't really be employed. His name is Jeff.
Hello.
And the king of brand on a show about branding, Mark.
Hello. Do y'all feel like basketball players now? Is that what we're going?
Yeah, they totally feel it.
Yes. And that's also the first time that I think my name and Madonna has ever been mentioned in the same sentence. So thank you for that, Scott.
The first, but not the last, hopefully.
There you go.
Well, listen, we got all sorts of people over here. Letitia says, hello, Drinks with the Leaders. Matt Moylan says, another fire group today. Thank you, Aaron and Scott. Well, you're welcome. And then so grateful for a warm day full of sunshine and fabulous networking. Yes, ma'am, Miss Christine. We are about to get going. Keep networking over there in the comments. Chris, let's start with you. Who are you? What do you do? And how do you get here?
Well, my name is Chris Culbertson, and I work at Creative Planning here in Kansas City. I am on the commercial insurance side. So I'm a producer for commercial insurance at Creative Planning. And really got a really interesting story about how I got into insurance, because there's not a whole lot that's interesting about insurance itself. But actually, right out of school, I graduated from the University of Missouri, grew up here in Kansas City. And at that time, a friend of mine and mentor of mine was starting a company and said, hey, come work for us. I think you'd be a good fit here. And I started doing that with a company called kcfit.net. And so that company was an online-based health and wellness resource that we were selling to companies as an employee benefit. Back in 2006, we were doing walking programs with pedometers and things like that. Did that for a few years. And then after working there, I actually went to work for Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Kansas City on the health insurance side. After being at a desk for about a year, realized that I was not good at sitting at a desk, needed to be on the sales side. And I got an opportunity with Premier Work Comp Management. It was a wholly owned subsidiary of Blue Cross and Blue Shield. And that's how I kind of flipped from the insurance side from the benefit side to the property casualty side. So I'm still an entrepreneur at heart. I love the fact that I get to do sales every day. I get to work with business owners. I get to understand how they have grown and created their companies and really effectively work for myself from a sales standpoint. So there's kind of the fun story behind it, but insurance can be can be challenging in its own right. Scott can tell you a little bit more about that, right?
So, Chris, 2 questions. One, to shamelessly plug your business, Creative Planning. What's an industry that you've really enjoyed working with lately? And then second question is, tell us about KC Can that you help run and give back to the community.
Absolutely. So at Creative Planning, we actually do wealth management, estate planning, tax legal work, as well as 401k and personal lines and commercial lines for insurance. So we've got a pretty broad paintbrush, pretty unique set, especially here in Kansas City, for all the things that we do. And so we do have some different practice development groups. We work a lot with doctors. We work a lot with dentists. Personally, I have been doing a lot of commercial real estate as of recent. So it's what we call lesser's risk only, meaning somebody owns the building but does not occupy it themselves, lease it out. And that's been a really effective class for me. And we're also growing pretty heavily on the insurance side in the contractor sector right now. We brought some people on board that are very good in the surety space as well. So that's helped us round that out. So those are 2 areas that I've really been working on a lot here lately and have really enjoyed working on. I had a pop-up. I don't know if I went away or if I'm still there. Looks like I'm
You're
still
good.
there.
Tell us about KC Can, and then we're moving on.
KC Can is an organization that was started about 20 years ago in Kansas City. And really what we do is we provide grants to other 501c3s for programs that focus on kids in the areas of wellness, education, and basic needs. So I have been the chair for 2 years. This will be the 3rd year that I'm the chair of that organization, and just absolutely love the ability to network and work with other organizations in Kansas City that are really doing the heavy lifting. We just like being a small part of it.
Nice. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to ask you later who came up with the big heart over on your building, because that's my favorite thing. One of my favorite things that was added during COVID in Kansas City's landscape. So thank you.
Can I take the credit?
Did you have anything to do with it?
No.
Oh. No, you don't need to say that.
Well, it is a great look when you're going down 435. I really like that. Jeff, who are you? What do you do? And how do you get here?
Wow, let me think about all those questions. My name is Jeff Miner. I am a performance coach and a licensed professional counselor. I basically work with people to get where they want to go. So it's like people are here and they want to get here and they want to achieve, but there's something in their way. It might be a fear, a doubt, or whatever. I'll tell you a little bit about my story. I started out, I was an athlete from Iowa and just happened to be really, really good. And I won and did really well, but I struggled with anxiety really bad and like a anxiety disorder. And I would throw up before I would wrestle and I would get so anxious and nervous. And it's like I hated it, but I couldn't quit because I was so good. It's like people just expected Jeff to continue to wrestle. And I'm like, this is horrible. I hate traveling and doing all this. But I did it through high school, did well, did it through college, wrestled in college, did well, but I never had any fun. I realized that, I was good. I should have loved life. I should have enjoyed the ride, but I didn't. It was miserable for me. So what I did when I graduated is I said, I want to be the guy that I wish I would have had to talk to. So I looked into sports psychology, realized I wanted to become a therapist, but I wanted to target working with athletes. So I'm a licensed professional counselor. I work with athletes. My first gig was at the Olympic. I worked there, Olympic Committee, for 6 years. I worked with different professional sports, different athletes in golf, and I still work with a lot of professional athletes virtually all over the United States. Currently, we're training coaches. I'm training coaches to be able to work virtually. COVID's been kind of a blessing in a lot of ways. It's just kind of sent you, you can do this virtually. And we do a lot of biofeedback and neurofeedback and helping people deal with doubt and confidence issues. And that spills over. I do a lot with business. I work with a lot of business owners, a lot of people that are in their own way, and they know that. And it's like, I know I could be achieving, but in the great big picture, it's like, would professional athletes go to practice if they didn't have a coach? You know, in the great big picture, it's somebody's got to be holding your feet to the fire saying, hey, why aren't you going? Why aren't you doing these things that you know you need to do? So basically, in a nutshell, that's my business. We help people achieve, overcome. You know, last week I do a radio show called The GOAT, or not a radio show, a podcast called The GOAT. Leave me alone, Aaron. I see that laugh.
No judgment.
I didn't age myself at all, did I, guys? But in a nutshell, that's what we do. And we've added some other things. I also work at a place called Warriors Ascent to help first responders who have struggled with PTSD in some way. And I do the leap of faith in a ceremony, and it's really a cool day. It's really exciting for them. And we also do some other things. We're doing a new bringing awareness. We put together a documentary, me and a couple other people, and we got Dustin Colquitt on it. We got John McGraw. We got several athletes here in Kansas City, a high jumper, to talk about bringing awareness to, if you say I need help, or if you're a professional athlete and you're struggling, it's seen as weakness, and it's seen as bad and not a good thing if you need some mental health help. And that's a horrible stereotype, because it keeps a lot of people from getting help that they need, and they can enjoy the sport more. I didn't get to enjoy it. So that's kind of my story.
From a business perspective, may I, Aaron?
Yeah.
From a business perspective, kind of the same question I asked Chris. Is there, he mentioned real estate was super unique to him right now. What's been trending for you on businesses that have been seeking your help, or businesses where you've just really enjoyed working with, and no pun intended, you've hit some home runs with?
Yeah, there's several. I'm working with a lot of the CEOs and people that they take on a lot themselves. And so a lot of the CEOs, like, if let's just say they have drinking issues, they have an addiction, they have personal issues going on in their life, who can they talk to? So a lot of C-level, and that kind of brings me to, I knew you were going to ask a question about COVID and what changes. Something amazing happened to me over COVID, and if you don't mind me going into it now, I had a gentleman that fell off the wagon, been sober for a month and a half or a year and a half, and was doing well. And then during COVID, he fell off the wagon. We tried to get him into a treatment facility, and we couldn't get him into one. So he asked me if I would take him up to a cabin away from any substances for a couple weeks. And I did it, and we created a relapse prevention plan and an aftercare plan, and we dug into the root, and we did all kinds of work with this guy. And I realized it's like, treatment programs don't do that. You go in, it's a can, you go to this group, you go to this group, you do this. And the paparazzi and the CEOs and C-level people don't want that to be public. So it's like, kind of, we just say, hey, we're going on vacation for a couple of weeks, we go. And so I've started this program of doing that, and I'm now doing these excursions and absolutely loving them. Taking people for 2 weeks up into the mountains. We do a routine every day. We look at their different values, like their relationships. We look into their personal growth, their spiritual life, their financial life, and we break it all down over the 2 weeks. They get daily routines that'll help them overcome the addiction process. So it's been that's been a really unique experience.
That's so unique that you say that. So when I talk to younger people getting into the industry, or I talk to people that maybe run companies that aren't that well networked, they think to themselves, well, I don't drink, I can't go to that event.
Right.
And I go, whoa, time out. A third of all executives don't drink. You'll actually find that in the population of people running companies, it becomes more and more of a rarity for a variety of different reasons.
Right.
And, when you have that stress and pressure of running a company and making payroll, substance finds its way in there. So it's super unique where people don't realize that in Kansas City, 10 times the amount of work gets done over breakfast than it does in a happy hour. And so when people realize that, it makes them feel comfortable if they do not consume beverages or they feel a need to do that. And so I love that answer, kind of like Chris went down a niche of real estate, you went down a niche of subsidies, because it's those little intricacies that our audience can take away from the show, and they can remember who they can go to if they have that issue. Because a lot of people in your situation will be like, I want to work with really fast growing companies that are well capitalized and well known, and and it's that whole, and it's like, well, of course, don't we all want to do that? And when you really get into the weeds, it's where you lead the horse to water for that referral. Aaron, you and I have many happy hours, and the show started out as a happy hour during a pandemic, but now we don't. No one really drinks on it. But at the time when it started, yeah, people were having a beer or a glass of wine at 3 p.m. on a Tuesday because it was new.
But do you remember where we first met, Scott?
I'm assuming it's a happy hour.
A breakfast. We had a breakfast very first time we met.
Oh, we first watch, yeah.
But then we met at a breakfast.
I bought, and then you bought the next time, and we were both trying to give up carbs, but we both ordered potatoes.
What were you drinking?
We weren't drinking, orange juice.
But yeah, it was a breakfast, and so to your point, I think that's a great point. All right, well, I've got lots of questions for you, Jeff, so we're going to get into those in a little bit. Mark, your sound wasn't working earlier when we were checking. You switched over during the intro. So let's make sure your sound's working, and let's hear from you. Who are you? What do you do? How'd you get here?
Hands look giant now, though, because of the cell phone. But, real quick, to Jeff's point, I don't think I've ever drank so much in my life as I did over COVID. And Raw and Cold Quitter to blame for it, by the way. So, I mean, we'll go from there. But we'll keep that between just the four of us. Mark Mazzarese. I'm a private jeweler. Grew up in Kansas City all my life. Went to a little high school named Rockhurst. Went to KU after that, and just stuck around, ran my family's company for about 20 some years. And in 2017, decided I wanted to make a change and had ventured off. And at the onset of COVID, I decided to open office on the Country Club Plaza to service my private clients. And luckily, I'm still here.
Was this before or after COVID you opened the office?
I opened 2 months prior. I opened right at the end of 2019.
Wow.
So
that's amazing. I mean, I feel like it's almost like congratulations. How have you weathered that storm? But with it being a personal sale, and you dealing with a lot of high net worth clients, maybe, give the audience a little insight of how your business works and why you've been successful during this time frame.
Well, most of my clients, like you said, are high net worth clients and are looking for something specific that you don't just walk into a store and do. And I've always had that as a specialty of mine, to work with my clients one-on-one that way. But this really expands it almost exclusively. So I don't technically do retail. It's all by appointment and all by referral. But it's been very interesting because I've found that, what people have diverted funds basically from events and dinners and concerts, sports and whatnot. And there's a lot more disposable income on the market. And the other side of that is fashion has changed. So we're not getting dressed up as much, but watches have gotten more popular as we've gone on, and women still like jewelry. They still like sparkly stuff.
And you can see all of this on Zoom.
Right.
Yeah. So from a perspective of, since it's all private appointments, so people have been good to go with that. But, I'm sure I'm not reinventing the wheel when I say, buying a piece of jewelry is like taking your car to the auto mechanic and asking them to figure out what's wrong with part of the engine. It's impossible to know unless you've lived and breathed it every day. And so, how do you help people understand the process of making sometimes some of their biggest decision purchases of their lives, because when you walk into a typical, not custom store like yours, it can be very overwhelming, and you kind of just have no idea of what you're buying. So how do you help people with that process?
Well, a big part of it is, there's not a store that you walk into and see 10,000 things you don't need and things that have been sitting for a while and frankly have aged. Primarily what I do is it's a process. There's a discussion about your lifestyle, your style, your wife's style, and let's build the wardrobe. So my intention is, as we build piece by piece, it's not a one and done. It's how do we build your wardrobe through time? What's going to be the next piece and the next piece after that? So we look at it as you're accumulating wealth and you're accumulating pieces that are going to endure and last that lifetime. So fashion, not just trendy. So we take it a step further. A lot of times it's a matter of just a quick interview. What are you looking for? What's the budget? Favorite colors? Expanding on all those areas. And then I'll go out to my resources, curate a collection that's specifically tailored for that client, put it together, generally over email, over FaceTime, whatever we need to do. If it's an international client, it's WhatsApp. But put everything together, and the client can kind of discern that I like these 5 pieces. And one way or another, I'll get it in front of them so they can approve, and we go from there.
And I'm not sure how big a service this is, but this is probably my most memorable DM message from COVID. Do you remember I put my ring, I got divorced during COVID, and I put my ring and I said, what does one do with their ring once they're divorced? And Mark said, you bring it to me and I rework it into another piece of jewelry. So ladies, that is like a service that I think is probably pretty needed right now.
Right.
Is that something you do often, or was that a favor I wasn't supposed to talk about?
No, that's quite a bit of it. I mean, there's, with a divorce, that's an asset that a lot of women either want to continue using or want to have as a handoff for the kids. And in the meantime, you can always enjoy it still. So there's a lot of different things we can do with it. Reworking it is one thing. There's also an option to liquidate it.
People are starting to tag their friends over here.
Yeah, no, you know what? This is a great format for that, because it's always the question everyone's scared to ask, but they don't know. And if I can't go to an advisor at Creative Planning, I would go to Mark. And is that if you get engaged, is your ring a gift to he or she, and who owns that gift once you purchase it?
So it depends on the state, and it depends on how it's presented. Kansas refers it that as an engagement until you're married goes back to the groom or whoever presented it. So it belongs to them, and it symbolizes the relationship, but it's not necessarily a gift. So if it's given as a gift, if it's a Christmas present and you open it up and it's a ring, then that's a gift. So it can go a couple of different ways. It gets a little dicey. There's some gray areas in there, and just depends. It definitely becomes one of the assets in a lot of relationships when a marriage breaks up.
What about Missouri?
It was very clear it needed to be in the divorce decree as well.
Several times. Most of the jewelry after that, though, does go to the person who it was gifted to. So you don't generally have to liquidate it all, but every situation is different.
Well, look, people are really into this. We might have a whole show with you, Mark. And Christine wanted to make it clear she was not tagging Angela for that reason, but she and you needed to talk. So make sure to get that up there. No, it was really funny because I put it on stories and I said, what does one do? And I got over 100 messages. Mark's was the only not crazy message I got. People were like, go take and do this, smash this, sell it for this. I was like, Mark was like, let's talk about doing it. And I would say you were probably one of the only male messages as well. So I've got some friends to check. But well, thank you so much for joining us. I was super excited when I saw you were going to be on the show today. So next we kind of already pivoted into this, but the wins during COVID, we all know that COVID has been, you guys, it's in a week and a half, we'll be at a year.
We want to ask Wendy's question.
I want to do this really quick because we're gonna hit COVID in a year. And I saw a study this morning that said actually, well, Jeff, actually therapist appointments are going way, way up because people are resonating that it's almost been a year, right? Like it's one thing when we're like almost out of it. Now it's like our lives. So let's just talk about really quick, a quick win you've had so that we can kind of show the optimistic side of what we're all having to deal with, kind of the crap, but what are some good things that have happened too? Let's start with you, Chris.
Well, I think I'd dive right back into that commercial real estate. So kind of similarly to what Mark was saying, a lot of what we do is work with high net worth people from the financial planning as well. So it's pretty neat for us to be able to go in and build a relationship with someone. And then we can say, all right, now you've basically come to the table with creative planning. We want to bring the family around the table here. And how do we talk about those things? So oftentimes people that own some of that commercial real estate have some other assets. So when we're able to go in and not only help in that component, but then bring other people to the table, that's really when we have a win. And we can work on the wealth management and actually put together financial plans for people and projections. We can then look at the estate planning to make sure all those things are in line. If they are a business owner or company owner, we can bring in the 401k department to be able to look at the group sponsored retirement plans. And so really that's the type of win that we have historically been very good at. But over COVID, I think that's when we were able to focus on that even more, because trying to get new people and new prospects was tough, especially when you rely on in-person meetings. Scott, you're in a similar business on the other side of the coin, but it was hard to get people to sit down and have in-person meetings. So really it made us focus on how do we cross-sell and how do we expand depth of wallet with each one of our customers here. And frankly, we're good at all the areas, or at least we think we're good at all the areas. So why not bring somebody else to the table that can provide some value for somebody that you've already built a nice relationship with? So that's been huge for us, especially this last year.
Just more time. Awesome. Jeff, I know you kind of talked about being able to do the one-on-one therapy.
Exclusions, yeah. And that was a big change. But I think some of the wins that I've seen are a lot of the athletes that I work with. There's been some incredible struggles over the past year, as we all know, in sports and everything. But with some of these athletes that were getting ready to go to college and they wanted to show off their skills, or it was their last opportunity and they didn't get, a lot of the athletes that I've been working with have really been able to handle this well. And I am excited to be able to be on their journey. A lot of them are taking it like it's an off season, or I have had more time to practice my mental or my physical. So a lot of the athletes that I'm working with, I feel like I've been able to provide a huge resource during this time, because I know they're struggling. A lot of high school kids are struggling. A lot of us adults are struggling. So I think one other big win that I'm going to take out of it is the awareness during COVID of it's okay to get help. You don't need to be broken. You don't need to have something wrong with you. It's like peak performers, people that want to be great at things, get help with things. So for me, that's been like a big smile on my face, is people aren't saying, oh, therapist bad. Right. It's like, oh, you're broken, you're wrong. It's like, now I still use my performance coach and that. I would like to be able to say I'm a therapist and have everybody not run from that, but we're not quite there yet.
Well, my therapist is doing very well during this. We're seeing each other weekly. So she's been doing very well. Right. Mark, what's a big win you've had?
This whole thing is just, my business is tailored for this situation, because a lot of what I was trying to do is discretion is key, number one. So a lot of what I want to do is have a decision made before we actually sit down and look at anything in person, so that we've gone through and knocked out things that are not possibilities. So a lot of the research is done ahead of time. By the time we're sitting down and executing something, if we even have to sit down across from each other, can all be done ahead of time. So it really hasn't been hard. If I was in a retail situation, I think I'd be a lot more stressed out. I think most of my clients are ready to get out and get. I'm sorry, the joys of being on a phone. But I also, but I also, I think everybody wanted something new, something fresh, spoil themselves a little bit in the midst of everything.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds from the woman's perspective. I think that sounds wonderful too, right?
Yeah. One quick thing, Chris, in the back of your mind, are you kind of like when Mark's talking about pre-qualifying? You're kind of like, man, that sounds like a good idea from our business standpoint. Because Mark,
Exactly.
what you're doing is, I want to relate it. Not that anyone's in the financial advising space, but we've all been there when when people are picking their own financial advisor. Once you're taking the meeting, you're really committed. And so for you, you're getting rid of a lot of any anxiety someone is about purchasing, or do they really want to purchase? Are they saying that because they want to be your friend? And so really talk about way to change the game and flip the system on its head, because by the time they're walking into working with you, I guess I know it's only been a short period of time, but out of 10 people, how many people leave there with a transaction with that process?
10, for sure. 10.
Wow. See?
But the thing is that tremendous, having served in that capacity for the last 20, 25 years, I'm working with established clients I've worked with for years. Sometimes I'm on their second generation or third generation. And, they trust my taste. They know what my ethics are, and they know what I'm capable of. So a lot of it is, they know we're not going to waste each other's time. Just like these other guys, you have to pre-qualify, and they're not coming to us because they're looking for second best. They're coming to us because they know that they're going to get the best.
Well, your watch speaks for itself. I want to chat. I want to say hi to everybody. Toby says he's here. He's a father of kids and cats. Lindsay, happy Taco Tuesday, everyone. And Angela earlier was saying, if you drink a seltzer and a tonic water with a lime, it's a good fake out and nobody asks you anyways. So those are all great advices. Now I'm ready to bring on Wendy. Are you, Scott?
Ooh, wait, did she change outfits for this one?
She did. She's back every week. She makes time for us. She's back. She's ready. She's going to jump on here, but then she has to go. So the minute she's done, Chris, we're going to let you answer her question. Okay. Here you go.
What is the best and worst part about being a CEO or leader?
Chris, what is the best or worst part about being a leader in your organization?
Thank you. I was going to say, for some reason it didn't show, or the audio didn't play.
Oh.
Say the best or worst
part. What is the best or worst part about being a leader in your organization? Which a lot of people don't realize is you also recruit and train a lot of people that come into creative planning, which is unique for a role like yourself. So what's something that's unique to that challenge for you? Or the best or worst part, as Wendy Reynolds, CEO of Bank of Blue Valley, would say?
I'm going to stick with the best side here. And honestly, being a leader, it's just an amazing responsibility that you have an opportunity to play a role in somebody's success. So I always view it as, how do I bring value to this person, and how do I help them be successful? I'm pretty lucky in that the leader of our company, Peter Maluk, is one of the absolute best leaders that I've ever been around in my entire life. And so I have the ability to learn from a guy like that and be able to try and take some of those same principles and then reapply them with anybody that I have an opportunity to work with. But it is lead by example. It is being responsive. It's being able to communicate and get to know people on a personal level. Every single person at our company, he knows by name. He has some sort of a relationship with, and so I try and do that in the same capacity where I can on the commercial insurance side.
I'm waiting for him to come out with a book, because out of anyone, he's got to be top 5 in Kansas City. And so Kansas City's super lucky to have him, because a lot of us get to watch him, and he's a competitor. But you watch him and it's just mind blowing, amazing. It's like Wendy Reynolds texting Aaron, "Hey, I saw your shop." It's mind blowing that people can do that with thousands of associates. And, for you, Jeff, and then Aaron, I'll let you handle the transition from Jeff to Mark. But what is something that is good or bad about being a leader?
I can tell you that I'm not a great leader. And I'll be straight out honest. I tried to run a hospital for 8 months and found out that that is not my calling in life or nor what I want to do. But what I found is there's lots of different ways to be a leader. Like I have brought in people that are smarter than me in business areas and in those areas so that I can kind of do my trade to the best of my ability, because I love to do the actual work. Let's sit one-on-one and get you to overcome this challenge. But I love to teach and I love to coach other coaches to be able to do what I do. It's just, I don't want to lead like the traditional leader because that's not me. I'm not organized. I'm scattered. I've realized all these things. I'm old. It's like, I have realized through lessons that it's like leading is not my calling. My calling is providing leaders with need. I'll write whatever you say. I'll do whatever you need me to do. I want to play that role, but I'm not a great leader. And I love to work with leaders and I love to help them become that. It's just not my desire. It's not what I want.
I would say you're probably still a leader, just not in with a bunch of people under you, right? You're still a leader.
Right. And I want people above me, actually. I want you to run this and I want you to run this. And I want them to take over that leadership role because it's not what I've ever wanted to do. I never wanted to be that guy. I wanted to be the guy that got things done. I'm a hard worker. I'm a wrestler, one-on-one. You said, what's the best thing about being a leader? It's like that competitiveness for me. I'm going to do whatever it takes to win. And
that's a hard, I'm like that too. In the leadership thing, that can be a hard thing to balance.
and I think in the leadership way, everybody knows I'm competitive here. They know that I do things to win, basically. And that a lot of times is put people in positions that are better at what they do than I am.
Right. I am, I've got teenagers now and I'm very competitive and I like to win. And it's also a hard thing in the parent piece where I want to beat them at a lot of things, right?
Oh, don't ever let them win. Never.
Mark, what is the best or worst part of being a leader for you?
I think my style is more of a player coach, that I like to jump in, just like having kids was primarily where I think I got most of my leadership skills.
Yes.
Getting used to not being heard and just having to kind of say it over and over and jumping in and showing people how to do it type of thing.
Right.
I think being present, being respectful, being ethical, and you start from there. And I think everybody kind of jumps in and helps out. Those guys said everything that that I would possibly have covered. One unique thing about what I do is I get to work with people from all walks of life and captains of industries. And I've known Peter and Veronica for years, and watching and helping those leaders and those community leaders make those decisions and coaching those guys into a professional decision is really rewarding on my side. So, I kind of play psychologist sometimes, and I kind of investment analyst, and I kind of play all those different hats for them to help them make those decisions.
Well, that is, you guys are each leaders in your own respective, even you, Jeff, even you. So I've got a couple quick questions, but if anyone in the audience has questions, ask now, because we're about to run out of time. But I do have a couple quick questions for our guests. Jeff, something that was going on in my mind earlier when you were talking about the kids, the seniors who didn't get their last chance for the scholarship, or they're going to school, but they didn't get to show out their last. I'm wondering, how do you think that the NCAA ruling that they could get paid on their likeness, how do you think that kind of coincided with, okay, now we're going to have to take the years off and stuff? Did you see anything there? Did that make it more stressful, less stressful? Did that open up a whole new world for a lot of those athletes? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's individualized, like different situations. I've got a kicker that I'm working with that this is going to end up being the best thing that ever happened because it gave him an extra year. But then I've got kids that are like, wait, I'm done. And I don't want to come back for another year just to play sports. I was counting on going pro. And so there's lots of, and because they didn't get a show off their last year. So there's lots of good and bad with it. You know what? It's given some kids great opportunity because they weren't ready to play and they took this year as a learning opportunity and they're kicking butt now.
And then what about the getting paid on their likeness, like on their social media? Have you seen that? Any piece of that play into it?
That's going to bring in a totally different aspect of professional sports in general, I think.
Right.
Because sponsorships and lots of different things is going to happen.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting from your point of view because now all of a sudden there's more than just being the best, right? It's also being the most popular and the coolest and all the things that we hate about social media, but I love about social media owning and social media companies. So, all right, so let's switch over to the psychology part. We're going to switch to Mark. Mark, I'm interested. Are you ever in a situation when we're talking about these engagements and stuff like that? Have you ever been in one of these situations where you know in your gut they should not do it, yet you still have to provide the service? How do you handle that?
That's a great question.
Yeah, Mark.
Oh, loaded question.
Fair, is it? I mean, it comes up occasionally, and more times than not, you can tell that one of the parties is way in over their head. So,
and how do you handle that?
How do you handle it? I mean, my job is to make the parties happy. So it's a matter of finding that happy medium and trying to find, she wants the 10-pound ring and he's got a 3-pound budget. So we've got to try to figure out where we find that happy medium. So it's an psychology.
That's a very good, safe answer, Mark.
I run into that all the time also.
Yeah?
And
in what ways?
They have to be a 10. They have to choose to be a 10 before I'll work with them. So it's like, if you're not going to be a 10 towards your goals, then I'm probably not going to work with you. And that cuts out all the middlemen. It's like, okay, I'm serious. I'm 0 to 10 committed to your goals. I said, would you want your doctor or your financial planner to be an 8 towards their goals? It's like, no, you got to be all in or else I don't want to play. And that kind of gets rid of a lot of that kind of situation.
Chris, I would imagine with you too, right? Like you have quite a relationship business. So how does the relationship piece with that, because you're also talking about assets and all of that, how do you navigate that?
It kind of ties back to what Mark had said earlier. You have to just know that you're bringing value to the table. You have to believe in what you're doing and how you do it, and know that the reasons that you're doing that is you're truly trying to help somebody. You're trying to bring that value to the table. And if you know that and you have that conviction in your heart, it's going to show through. And that's where your ethics are going to show through as well. And that's when you're able to get somebody to, we talk about it in sales. I think Scott's probably similar, but anytime you walk in to talk about insurance, this is what you're met with. And anytime you can get someone to just do that, that means you're starting to get that trust. And that's really where we can see that. And that's where that relationship is able to blossom over time. And I think you can really do your best work when you get somebody to realize that we're sitting on the same side of the table. We're not sitting across the table from each other.
What did you think you would do after college? You said at the beginning you didn't know you had insurance. What did you think you would do, and how does this compare?
That is a good question. I don't know if I knew what I wanted to do. My dad is a doctor and my brother is a doctor. So I went to college thinking I wanted to be a surgeon, and within the first semester realized very quickly that was not going to happen.
Was it organic chem 1 or 2?
Actually, it wasn't even the class. It was just more so the first semester.
Was it just biology?
I can't do an extra 4 years of this. There's no way. But coming out, the entrepreneurship side, I just love the fact of being a decision maker, being involved in something, growing it, and really having flexibility to go make things happen. that's really what I wanted to do. I just didn't know where and what industry or what sector.
If you look at the next year for you or 2 years, and I'll ask everyone the same question, and Chris will go around with you, what do you hope or what do you think is going to be the fastest growing part of your business? And try to answer this in 60 seconds because we do want to do another question after this. So what in the coming years do you want to be or do you think will be the fastest part growing of your business?
Great question. I mean, the wealth management has been and likely will continue to be, but we're going to continue to round out and work with clients in multiple lines. We're going to do a much, much better job, and that's going to be the big growth engine for us, is working with existing customers to help them in more ways.
Good job
for you. Yeah, Jeff, for you, what do you hope or what do you think will be the fastest growing part of your business?
My guess is, and probably the reality is our coaching of athletes virtually, because of COVID, because of everything, is moving more that direction. I have a feeling the opportunity to grow a lot in that area is my ability to train coaches. So that probably could be the only limit.
Yeah, and I got to be careful how I say this, but I had a really good business friend of mine that is in recovery, and he had an amazing group of business executives that were also in recovery. And I'm such a business nerd. Chris will think this is funny. You can just pick up on things automatically. People that have shown themselves with. I think potentially retreats for you on the business side could be a revenue generator because being around others that share similar values gives a lot of energy, and people would pay to be around others that share those values. So don't sleep on that one. Mark, for you, what do you hope or what do you think will be the fastest growing part of your business?
Well, I think on my side, one thing I do is consult with other businesses. So I do some consulting for retailers and luxury retailers around the globe. I think that part will probably pick up. I think as people start to come out and start to realize that it's a new market and old ways aren't going to work anymore. So I think everybody's trying to recreate the wheel, so to speak. I think the other side of it is I think we've had some thinning out across several industries, and ours is a business of resources. So discovering new resources and seeing who's kind of still left when the smoke clears will be interesting. And just watching the market. We deal with commodities as well. So it's just watching the volatility of the market.
Wow. Yeah, no, I good buddies with a local brand that we all support, Rieger, and very similar about who's going to be left standing. And then, I think of a friend of Aaron and I's, Kylie Nichols of Nickel and Suede. She's just such I was going to use a word we can't use on LinkedIn. She's a awesome, bad mamma jamma. And she just, by pure will and strength, has such a crazy, amazing brand, but she's so much on gut. And then having someone like yourself to, guide, I think is really important because retail will absolutely come roaring back. Aaron, are you ready for icebreakers or do you want to transition in another way?
No, I just think we should tell everybody what's about to happen. So Scott's favorite piece has now become, we're on week 46 of this show. And somehow this has found its way into almost every show we've ever done. And any time I've ever been around Scott, whether it be happy hour or breakfast, he now would like to ask his icebreaker question. And again, keep it to 60 seconds because we're hitting up on time. But this is his most favorite part. We love for our audience to answer the icebreaker question over here. So, okay, go, Scott.
Yeah, I'm the weird person that runs 14 peer groups. I actually had 12 CFOs today at a peer group. And their favorite question, they had 3 of them today, but their favorite, we can't use this word on with Aaron's fancy and coveted LinkedIn Live license, but we won't say the word, but what was your worst job in high school? Sometimes your worst can be your best, but what was, whether it was labor or you just didn't like it or it was really hard? Chris, will go with you. What was your worst job in high school?
I am going to say it was actually college. I didn't have as much of a job in high school because I played sports and mowed lawns. But in college, one summer, I worked on the grounds crew at the Blue Springs Country Club. And while I had a good time and enjoyed it and worked with some fun people, there were some miserable days of wearing waders and creeks, weed eating, and 100-degree temperatures, and it was absolutely miserable. But it makes you appreciate the golf course that much more.
Did you pick up a chewing tobacco habit?
I did not.
And that's why you're successful. I mean, that's a hard place not to pick that up. And please, audience members, feel free to answer that question. What was your worst job in high school? Jeff, what was your worst job in high school?
Well, I did mention where I grew up, right? Iowa. So I had shoveled more hog crap than you can imagine. And I also baled hay, and my dad used to kind of rent me out because, oh, Jeff's not a smart kid, but he can carry heavy things. It's like, oh, thanks, Dad.
What about tasseling corn? That I never did that.
I hated that too, but shoveling the manure was the worst, man. It stunk. It was hot. It was sloppy. Oh.
Yeah,
I've got 4 kids, so.
Hers was bean walking. She's also from Iowa.
Bean walking too, exactly. I did that when I was 6. We started.
What is that?
You walk and you pick the weeds out of the beans.
Oh, that sounds terrible.
Yeah, it's not fun.
Tasseling corn I've done this through hundreds of people, and that seems to win over baling hay. So again, I didn't do any of these jobs. I'm just giving feedback to the audience here. Mark, what was, to Jeff's point, we used the word manure. What was your worst job in high school?
One summer, I worked as a busboy in a local barbecue restaurant. And it was very eye-opening at 15 years old to see how a restaurant operates and to see what the back room looks like, and gives you a whole new respect for the service industries.
Did you ever try to go on a date after you worked a shift?
Oh, it was a barbecue place. I mean, our smelled for months.
I was going to say, if I don't own anything, it still smells from it.
Yeah, and one thing before Erin answers her question, I'm always blown away about our audience because we have some big name CEOs and big name movers and shakers that are always in our audience, and some great connectors. And so I'm always blown away of the people that watch the show, and I think it's kind of cool. I forget that we always have executives on, so executives end up watching it. For you, Erin, what was your worst job in high school? And please tell another roller skate story as well, because it's just a fun favorite
He's
of
heard
mine.
it 1,000 times. I got fired from Sonic twice. I just hated every piece of it. I just kept getting fired from it. I don't know why they hired me back. I want to check out what was your worst, and then I'm going to show some of our audience answers.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's been fired twice from a high school job. It's like, oh, you're coming back. So I had a lot of jobs, kind of like Jeff did, but I'll go on Mark's point of having to buy cologne from CVS because I would work at Papa Murphy's dishing out onions and sausage and pepperonis. And when you're 15 years old trying to go on a date after that, you literally, you end up putting a ton of cologne on to go on the date, and then the date won't even talk to you because you have so much cologne on. So, Erin, to you on that transition.
Well, yeah, I don't know what to say to that, so I'm just going to show some of these comments. This is what happens if your privacy's on, but I know this is Caroline. She's commented a couple times today. So, White Castle hamburgers in St. Louis. That does sound rough. Letitia says, worst was having to deal with complainers who don't wish to solve the problems. Best, having influence to positively impact others. But you didn't tell us where you worked. So tell us where you worked with that wonderful answer. Christine says, worst job in high school, helping janitors clean the schools during summer break. Didn't last long cleaning gum off of lockers. And Lindsay said about the beans, she only did that for one summer. Randy Powell says, mowing the lawn for the funeral home turned into a really creepy experience.
Ooh.
And this is our new girl over. She started with us yesterday. Madison, she says, Maddie, high school, she worked at Dairy Queen. She had a blizzard named after her in her small town. Wow.
We got to know the name of that blizzard.
Right?
What, Scott?
We got to know the name of that blizzard.
Maddie, put the name of your blizzard and I'll update everybody. But yeah, so she started with us yesterday. So good job jumping in, Maddie. I knew you were impressive. So, okay, well, we want to thank everybody so much for coming on. You can connect with all of our guests right here. It is actually, everybody's tagged on the LinkedIn post. So Facebook, no, but LinkedIn, go find our LinkedIn post. You can connect with everybody there. Ladies, get your old rings. I'm going to hit up Mark. We can all go together. We'll make it a happy hour type of thing. Thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. We really are so lucky to have all of you guys. And we will see all of you audience members next week, same time, same place, Tuesdays at 3. And thank you so much for Bacon Blue Valley. See you later.
Thank you.